Hi, everybody. It's Wednesday. It's May 22nd. Great to be with you today. Hope you had a great Tuesday yesterday. I hope you were thinking about that with those folks who are in close relationship with you, or maybe just different kinds of relationships. What language, what ways that in the wisdom of God you can touch their hearts with the love and the truth of Jesus. Because that was the great miracle here. The Spirit of God poured out on His people in power, and of course, palpably being able to speak languages they never heard, so that they could share in folks' native languages the reality of Jesus. But there's so many languages that people need or ways to touch them with the love of Jesus, and I think that continues today. I know it does, because Pentecost, the reality of Pentecost, continues today. So we're gonna go on here. So it goes on here. Some, however, made fun of them. This ended with amazement and perplexed. They asked the question, "What does this mean?" Well, some of them made fun of them and said they have had too much wine. You always got to have folks that are scared of truth because they don't want their lives to change, right? Then Peter stood up, the 11, raised his voice and addressed the crowd. "Fellow Jews and all of you who live in Jerusalem, let me explain this to you. Listen carefully to what I say. These men are not drunk as you suppose. It is only 9 a.m. No, this is what is spoken by the prophet Joel." So he says this is a fulfillment of prophecy spoken hundreds of years before prophet Joel. "In the last days." So remember I said these milestones show us our place in the world? Well, part of that is knowing the time in which we live. The time is the last days. It's the end times. This is the last time. The next great salvation reality is Jesus blasting through the clouds with all of the angels and all those who have died before us, and we'll all be raised from the dead and soul and body will live together with Jesus in new heavens and a new earth. We live in that time. That's called the end times, and Jesus could come at any moment. Right? So in these last days, that's what's happening, he said. This is ushering in the last days, the end times. So we ought to know this is the time we live in, right? God says, "I will pour out my Spirit on all people, on all my people." That include you. We live in the end times. We saw in the first week, all right, all the people, on each one the fire came, right? They were all gathered, the fire came on each one. They all spoke these languages they'd never learned. And so in these last days, in these last times, the end times, the Spirit is poured out on all of God's people. And just so that we get this, it says, "Your sons and daughters will prophesy." Prophesy here means proclaim the wonders of God in Jesus, right? "The young men will see visions. Your old men will dream dreams." Visions. We think about like dreams, that type of thing, and certainly that's part of it. But also just to have the vision of the kingdom, how it's moving and seeing it move, and all those things. "Even on my servants, both men and women, I will pour out my Spirit in those days, and they will prophesy." And the amazing thing here is, and I want you to see this because it points out that we live in these end times. The Old Testament saw this time that we live in, the last days, the end times. They saw it. It's between the first coming of Christ in Bethlehem and the second coming of Christ, and He comes in all of His glory. That's the time we're talking about, and we may think a lot of things are happening here, but from God's perspective, you have these great times of salvation reality, and Jesus coming was ushered in these last days. And in a moment, He's going to come in all of His glory. And so lots of times in the Old Testament, they saw this time kind of pushed together, these end days, and they jump from the first coming of Jesus, proclamation of the gospel, and then the end times. And that's what happens in Joel here. He says, "I will pour out my Spirit in those days, they will prophesy." And then it says, "I will show wonders in heavens above and signs on the earth below, blood and fire and billows of smoke. The sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and glorious day of the Lord." So he's jumped to the second coming of Christ already. And that's because they saw this time kind of pressed together in which we live, these end days, these last days. And then this part closes here. I think this is important. "Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved." So that's the bottom line in this time. That's why we're witnesses. That's why the Spirit of God has been poured out on us. as his people. That's why we're going to be witnesses to the ends of the earth, across the street and across the nation and to the ends of the earth, right? This is what it's because of this time in which we live. All those who call on the name of the Lord will be saved. And the Lord has been revealed in Jesus Christ. And his good news is for all people. And his Spirit empowers us to speak a language that they can hear his truth and know his truth and be touched by the Spirit of his truth in their hearts. And so this is Jesus' ongoing mission, to redeem and restore all things in this way. And we're part of that. This is our place in the world, both individually, as we individually live our lives, and together as his people. So much, we don't want to shortchange any of that. Our life with Jesus isn't just about what we do at church, right? It's like an iceberg. Most of our lives are lived outside of being in church type of thing, right? And so we don't want to shorten that. We're witnesses everywhere we go and everything we do, but at the same time, we are the people of God, right? It says they devoted themselves to the fellowship, so we practice being close to one another. We worship together. The 1 in 7. God's people have always worshipped the 1 in 7, right? Growing together, helping one another, coming alongside of each other, growing each other, so that we can what? So that we can be the witnesses we were meant to be in our lives. So we're witnesses together as the ecclesia. The Greek word that means church is a gathering of people. So that's the reality. We're part of that family, and yet we also live our lives individually, if you will, and so both is true, and we pray that God's Spirit would help us not to diminish either one of those things, and in this way live out our place in this world, this great gift to know our place and what we're about. Would you pray with me? Dearest Jesus, we praise your name that right up front, in the prophet of Joel, Peter says, this is what's happening. You're living in the end days. The last time, the next great salvation moment in history is when Jesus comes in all of his glory. So what are you about? What's your place in history? You're about being my witnesses, empowered by my Spirit to touch the hearts of people around you. We pray, Lord, that we might embrace this reality in the way we live as your people, in the mission that we do together with your people, and in our individual lives as well. Show us what this means, Lord. We pray in your name. Amen. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, may God be with you. Bye-bye.